Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some really trippy stuff today. Time travelers and time slips. But not just your run-of-the-mill, I saw a ghost from the past type of time slip.
Right.
We're talking about the possibility of people, actually encountering visitors from other points in time.
Yeah, it's like these stories suggest that maybe, just maybe, the past, present, and future aren't as separate as we tend to think.
It's a total mind-bender.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, let's head over to Sherwood Forest in England. August 1972.
Okay.
A guy named David Clarefield is out walking his dog. It's evening. Been strolling for about half an hour when suddenly,
Boom.
yeah, a huge flash of light and this deafening bang.
Wow. Not your typical, lightning strike, though, for what I understand.
Yeah, no. Clarefield described it more like a sudden burst, like a camera flash, but with a sound closer to, well, a gunshot.
Whoa.
And his dog, poor thing, completely freaked out, growling and tucking its tail at the same time. Total confusion.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So as Clairefield's trying to process what just happened, this man appears out of the trees. And I'm not talking about some random dude in jeans and a t-shirt.
No.
No way. This guy is tall, wearing a white jumpsuit, and get this, a respirator mask.
No way.
Yeah, so picture this, right? This strange figure walks up to Clarefield and just goes, "Are you biological?"
Oh, wow.
Right? Clarefield was so stunned he could only stammer out, "Am I..." "What?" And the man repeats the question. You can tell he's agitated. Pulls out this device from his pocket.
A weapon.
Clarefield thought so at first, but it turned out to be some kind of gadget. It had a display screen on it. The man glances at it, puts it away, and then asks another question. What year is it?
Chills, right. What would you be thinking at that moment?
Totally. Clarefield manages to sputter out 1972.
Uh-huh.
And the man's reaction was instant. He takes his sharp breath, looks down and mutters, "I'm too early. I'm too early."
Oh, no.
And then, poof! Just as suddenly as he appeared, he turns and runs back into the woods. Another blinding flash, another bang, and he's gone. Vanished.
Completely gone.
Completely. Clarefield searched the area, but there was no sign of him anywhere.
Okay, so now we gotta ask the big question, right? Was this a time traveler? Maybe, disoriented from arriving in the wrong time?
The whole thing is so strange. The questions, his reaction to the year of the disappearing act.
Yeah.
It's definitely not your everyday occurrence.
And that biological question, right? What's that all about? What could it possibly mean in the context of, time travel?
Right. Is it possible that in the future, humans have evolved or been augmented in ways we can't even imagine? Maybe this traveler was trying to make sure he was talking to, original humans.
That's a wild thought. And it really makes you wonder what else might be out there, right?
Okay, so let's fast forward a few decades. September 2010. This time we're on a farm near Watfield, England.
Okay.
A farmer named Brown is out harvesting maize with his two sons when their tractor suddenly stalls.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out what's wrong when they see something truly bizarre about 20 meters away.
What was it?
A bubble starts forming in the air.
Like a soap bubble.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
They described it as giant translucent sphere.
Almost invisible.
Except for a slight shimmering.
Whoa.
And wait, it gets weirder. Inside the bubble, 3 figures in white coats, surrounded by what looks like some serious high-tech equipment. And they're wearing gloves and something that looked like sacks over their heads, almost like protective gear,
Yeah.
And they're looking around through a window, they're observing everything. Then one of them speaks, another one presses something on a device, and poof, gone. Bubble, figures, equipment, all of it just vanishes.
The protective gear, right. It makes you think of a hazardous environment. Maybe they were dealing with something dangerous related to time travel itself.
Sure.
Or protecting themselves from, something in our time period.
It's crazy, right? Was this a scientific experiment from the future? A recon mission, maybe? Or were they just curious tourists, taking a peek into our time without wanting to interfere? What do you think?
Well, it seems pretty intentional, right? They observed, one spoke, another one activated something, and then they disappeared. Sounds like a planned operation to me.
A mission from the future, maybe. It's mind-blowing. And it's what makes these stories so fascinating.
Right.
They spark our curiosity, they make us question everything. What else is out there that we don't know about? And speaking of pushing boundaries, our next case is a real head-scratcher. Instead of seeing the past, it seems like this couple might have accidentally stumbled upon a glimpse of the future.
This one takes us to Sussex, England, another place with a bit of a reputation for time slip stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So picture this. beautiful summer day. A couple is out on a leisurely bike ride through the countryside, like hopping from hotel to hotel, enjoying the scenery.
Sounds idyllic.
Right. So they're riding along this quiet country road when they approach an intersection, and that's when they see it, something that makes them slam on the brakes.
Uh-oh, what was it?
A serious accident unfolding right in front of them. Yeah, like emergency vehicles everywhere, ambulances, police cars, lights flashing, the whole 9 yards. A major incident.
Wow, that's scary.
Totally. So they're obviously shaken up, right? And they don't want to intrude on such a serious situation, so they decide to just keep riding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Their route was a loop, so they figured they'd pass by the intersection again on their way back.
Okay.
But here's where things get really weird. When they return to the intersection, maybe half an hour later, the entire accident scene is gone. Gone. No emergency vehicles, no wreckage, nothing. Completely wiped clean.
That's greedy.
Right. And to make things even weirder, there's this thick fog that settled over the exact spot where the accident was.
Oh, wow. So they must have been totally freaked out, right?
I can only imagine, did they imagine the whole thing? Were they mistaken about the location? All these questions swirling in their heads.
Right.
But here's the kicker. Later that evening, they see a news report on TV. And guess what? It's about a serious accident that occurred at that very intersection at the exact time they saw it.
No, wait. So they definitely weren't hallucinating.
Nope. They really did see the accident, but how? It's like they briefly stepped into a future moment, saw it happen, and then it vanished.
It's like they saw a premonition or something.
Right. And this is where it gets really interesting because usually time slips are glimpses into the past, right? But this seems like the opposite, a glimpse into the future.
So what are we supposed to make of that?
It's a real head scratcher. Could it be precognition, where someone has a vision of a future event?
Interesting.
Or maybe there's something about that specific location, some kind of temporal anomaly that allows glimpses of things out of order,
It really makes you think, maybe our understanding of time is totally wrong. Maybe the past, present, and future aren't as separate as we think.
Right. It's what if, under certain conditions, the boundaries between those times can, blur or something?
Okay, so we've got a lost time traveler, mysterious observers, and now a potential glimpse into the future. And our next case takes things in a whole other direction, exploring the idea of messages from beyond time. We're heading to Texas, where a wealthy cattle rancher received an anonymous letter in the year 2000 that would change his life. And this letter was, well, let's just say, pretty creepy, typed, no handwriting or anything. Yeah. It arrived without a stamp, which means it was probably, hand-delivered to the rancher's mailbox.
They're cute.
Right. So the message was basically, spend the night of October 17th in the cattle barns and watch the ventilation system, or your descendants will face poverty.
Whoa.
I know. Talk about a cryptic warning.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the rancher's reaction, right? Skepticism, disbelief, maybe even a good laugh.
Yeah, I'd probably think it was a prank.
Totally. But as the days went by and October 17th got closer, he started to get this nagging feeling what if it's real?
Yeah, the what ifs would start creeping in.
Big time. What if he ignored this warning and his family ended up suffering because of it? That's a heavy burden.
For sure.
So he decided to err on the side of caution. On the night of October 17th, he and his son, who was about 20 at the time, headed to the cattle barns, ready to spend the night keeping an eye on that ventilation system.
So what happened?
Well, hours went by, nothing. The ventilation system was working fine, no signs of trouble. They probably started thinking, okay, maybe this was just a prank.
Right.
But then, bam! Just before midnight, this loud bang from the ventilation system, and then thick black smoke starts pouring out.
Oh, no.
There was a total disaster waiting to happen. But luckily, they were there. They acted fast, opened the barn doors to clear the smoke, and got all the cattle out safely.
Wow, what a close call.
I know, right? The rancher was convinced that if he hadn't received that letter, he would have lost everything. The cattle, his livelihood, everything.
It's a chilling thought.
It is. And it raises so many questions, doesn't it? Is time travel communication even possible? Could someone or something really send a message from the future?
It's mind-blowing. And then there's the whole free will question. Did the rancher actually have a choice? Or was the outcome predetermined?
That's a real paradox.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, what if we could send messages back in time? What would we say? What events would we try to change?
It's a slippery slope, though, right? Knowing the future could also rob us of the surprises and uncertainties that make life, well, life.
So that's it. Our deep dive into these incredible accounts. A lost traveler, mysterious observers, a glimpse into the future, and a message from beyond. What do we make of all this? Are these genuine encounters with time travelers, or is there some other explanation?
Well, it's important to remember that these are just stories, right? We can't definitively prove or disprove any of them, but they make us wonder, and that's the beauty of it.
Exactly. They tap into our fascination with the unknown, with the possibility that the universe might be way stranger and more amazing than we can even imagine.
It makes you question everything.
It does. So whether you believe these stories or not, they force us to confront the limits of our knowledge and entertain the idea that, hey, maybe time isn't what we think it is.
Maybe it's not linear, right? Maybe it's something completely different.
That's a great point. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with this question. If you could receive a message from the future, would you want to? What advice would you seek? And would you dare try to change the course of events? Food for thought as we continue our journey through the mysteries of time.
Until next time, everyone.